Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Finance Committee of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District order. And do we have anything, public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the committee's scope, including items on or not on the agenda? Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Next item will be the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
A roll call. Director Jones. Aye. Scheidegger.
Aye.
Monk.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next, we'll have financial reports. Ms. McFarland, welcome.
Good evening. Tonight is through the end of February. And our first graph is showing you our cash balances, and when it's below that black line, that means we're in the negative, and this is just the general fund. We always talk about that dry period funding, so that's when the line goes below zero, then of course we are using resources from the county. So this compares last year to this year. And then we also did a graph for reserves. President Jones asked us for that. And so it's pretty interesting to see the shape, obviously, of the lines are very similar, but we actually have more reserves in the current year. And then we indicated with that yellow dot where we expect to be at the end of the fiscal year in June 30th.
Okay.
Okay. Going
That's
on.
based on trending, I'm sorry.
Let me go back to that. What?
I wasn't exactly sure how that's thought.
Okay. Where we think we're going to be at the end of the year?
Right.
Okay. We basically took the beginning reserve levels plus revenues we expect to come in, less expenses, plus any transfers of reserves, i.e. the payback from the Capital Facilities Fund for the money that was loaned for the headquarters building. So that's basically how each month is calculated with actuals, and the projection for June 30th is done based on the budget.
Based on projected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so talking about the expenses, we just wanted to highlight a lot of the things that were helping us keep our budget in control, and it's all the concession items, and so I just detailed them out here. Mm-hmm. I want to continue to, have people realize what helped us balance the budget this year. And looking at our revenue, 76% of our revenue to date is from property taxes. And so that percentage is actually lower than what you've seen in other years because we're diversifying a little bit with our medic revenue. We did not receive any property tax money in February, and based on our budget we did, the adjusted budget, we're expecting overall there to be a 4.5% decrease, or $5 million less in income between this year and last year. And our next payment that we're expecting is in May. We could receive smaller amounts before then from supplementals or somebody paying late or something like that, but our next large payment's in May. Mm-hmm. And we're continuing to have strong fees coming in on our medic revenue. We're 26% ahead of last year, and we are on track with our projection that we made with mid-year. And from what I understand, the March came in even stronger, so we're looking good. In our expenses, 67.5% of our budget, expense budget, is from our labor costs, and we're at 66.7% of the year. So, you know, we're fairly close in there. We're continuing to look at those numbers, especially since we're now getting ready to make recommendations for our 12-13 year. We did make a large payment to CalPERS, and so we are caught up. I'm going to continue to put the 1 month that's unpaid, because you finish the month and then you pay the first week or so of the next month, so that we can, it more or less makes it on an accrual basis, so you can see, you know, what's been incurred. So I think that's better information than just showing it on a cash basis, since it's a real easy number to pull. We started doing it just because we hadn't paid things, but then we decided to leave it there because I think it gives you better information. And so that's about all I was going to say about that.
One question on that. Identify for me the difference between the first one and the third one.
No, I was looking at that, trying to figure that out myself.
I can probably do that for you. I
Okay.
think probably what you're looking at is that when you look at overall cost of the district for total expenditures for a complete fiscal year, our labor costs are 88% of our total budget. That's in the third one. And where you look at the total labor costs at the top, including February's, that's year to date. So we've expended, including PERS, at 67.5% of the budget, and we're 66.7% through the year. But we should end up the year at our total labor costs, including PERS, is about 88%.
Okay.
Chief?
I think
And
you
I checked all these numbers this morning, so this morning I knew that. Sorry.
yeah, you threw me off with the total labor costs on the first one and then labor
I
costs on
think
the other.
if we present it this way again, we're going to have to distinguish those two bullets to make it a little bit more clear. So thank you for
The
that
other thing
feedback.
the other thing I'd like to add to that is, as our total budget in expenditures goes down, when you talk about the overall expenditures, you know, we are shrinking the size of the district in the workforce. If we had the existing workforce and where we were at, our total labor expenditure of 88% would be pushed down, probably closer to 85%, and which is the goal that we try to get to. But as we shrink the size of the pie, even though that we're compressing the labor costs and everything, it is what it is.
So we can't provide our service without all of our people, so that's why we see those big numbers there.
And they won't work for free.
No. Okay, this next slide actually has to do with our capital facilities fund, and we are 75% of budget at this point, and 67% ahead of this time last year. So you can see the actual dollars on the bar chart, and so we are considerably higher than last year, but we did put on the 2009 number just as a comparison that we are far from back to the good old days. So that's what we were showing here. Any questions?
No.
Great. So the next slide actually covers the grant fund and the simulator fund that we separated out. But what we're noting here is that we had the 2 new grants, and that we also had drawn down on the simulator grant. Since they will let us advance the money, we went ahead and did that, and we're preparing for a payment to Elbit Systems. We're also, just on other financial activity, we continue to draw down on our bond reimbursement, and we drew down in February $1.4 million, which was equipment costs. And we just wanted to share that we are underway on our budget. I mentioned it earlier. We have distributed all of the information to the various departments so that they can submit their numbers. And in preparation to that, we've been giving them budget to actual numbers. We gave them both. They had the information from mid-year. We gave them February, and we also gave them some March numbers. So they are able to see what they've spent, see what they've encumbered on their purchase orders, and see where their remaining balance is, and use that as an indicator not only for what they're going to have left over or not at the end of the fiscal year, but to also give them some information to help them determine what their request would be for the 2012-13 budget.
I do appreciate that your graphic is balanced there, so.
You know, if I can add into that, because I think that's an important point, is that there was a serious disconnect in the past between what the actuals were that were spent and the budgeting process that then took place. And so, for example, if you took fuel, the purchasing agent, Mark Jones, who's in charge of that, was kept up to speed on certain numbers, but was never given in the preparation of the budget for this current fiscal year what the actuals were for the expenditures for the previous year. So now on a monthly basis, what we're doing is every division head, whether they're in operations or finance or EMS or logistics or whatever, is given that information so that they're tracking their own spending. They own their budget. And that will allow them, as they watch trending to take place in their division down on the level where it's at, to make those adjustments and recommendations for adjustments a lot quicker. So that we can adjust and adapt to things more timely. And it's also allowing them to look at that trend analysis as they go along and start thinking about what they're going to prepare for that next fiscal year's budget. So that sounds like commonality in the world, and it should be. It wasn't something that was in place. It's something that the finance department has brought in, and it's greatly assisting us with where we go from here.
And I imagine that helps the individual managers look at where their component is in comparison to the whole for planning, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it allows them to do that, and more importantly, it's the philosophy of you own your budget. So if you're not managing your budget and you didn't do it right and you have good data going in, going out, then that's a different issue that we can deal with. So it's a good checks and balances all the way around.
So it's making it a district-wide effort as opposed to a finance effort. You know, we are the facilitator, but it's everybody's budget. I must give credit to Marie for the balancing scale there. So. That's the end of February. Was there any questions about that?
No.
Not at this time. Thank you.
The only thing I'll add on revenue for the board, just to kind of give you an update, is that the March numbers, and we're not showing those anymore ahead of schedule, but our income on medic revenue continues to be that and development fees are the two glowing issues where we're ahead. But we hit $2,030,000 in March in revenue that came in. That's several $100,000, about $450,000 more than what we had anticipated. As you know, we had talked about a structural deficit of somewhere around $930,000, $950,000 towards the end of this year, and some change. We're hopeful that we're seeing a trend again this month for strong EMS revenue already at $500,000 that's come in. There is a possibility. Not a guarantee, but a possibility that if we can continue these strong EMS numbers, it'll greatly reduce, if not eliminate, that structural deficit at the end of this year. So, and the other thing that needs to be pointed out, at least at this point in time, is that we cannot tie any significant revenue to the treat no transport fee to that. We've only received a few $1,000s. We really didn't expect to see a lot of that starting to develop until 4 to 6 months into the program. So this really is the result of the medic redeployment plan, the issue of raising the fees to keep up with doing business, and that's really what we're seeing. So quite a bit of promise there as we move forward.
I think one additional thing, Chief, is for the public that are watching out there, we're not just here spending taxpayers' dollars as we wish. We're looking at the overall picture, and we're seeing where we can make improvements, and we're making those improvements. We're not just sitting back spending the money. So it means a lot to the voting public and the viewers out there that we're responsibly handling their funds. So thank you for the efforts.
I'm just going to stay here because I'm the next item too.
Director Scheider?
I just had a quick question. Yeah, I appreciate the chief's comments on the medic fees. I mean, on page 11, we're showing about $3 million ahead, and that's wonderful. That's a real great venture on the part of this, or business effort on the part of this operation. On page 9 of the fiscal report, I just had one question relative to something you said. It looks to me like we're roughly about 1% over on expenditures and about 9% down on revenue. And is that largely going to be balanced with the May tax revenue? Is that based on what you said?
The revenue, absolutely. I will tell you that we're continuing to watch the labor costs and are doing some more analysis on that. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll end up okay, but if we're not, we will alert you as soon as we know.
And this
but
is not
revenue
news.
I feel
I mean,
comfortable with.
Yeah, okay, I would hope that the May income, if you
Yes.
will
Yes.
help offset a lot of that.
Yes.
Thank you.
If that's it on financial reports, the next time is the internal control update.
Just get rid of this. I'll just start by saying I'm planning to bring this report to you every quarter as promised until we have all of these issues cleaned up. I will say that this report tonight will be a little bit longer than some of the other ones that I'll have subsequent to kind of lay the foundation of what we're doing. And then from here on out, I think I can probably deliver the report a little bit quicker. But I will start by saying there were actually 17 areas for improvement that were suggested by our auditors, Richardson and Company. And they were from both audits from 2010 and 11. And they were pretty much the same because it was such a short period of time between the delivery of those two reports to the board. The 2009-10 report came to you in December, and the 10-11 came to you in this last February. So this is the first of reports to come on this topic. And I actually was pretty excited about what we have accomplished. So, okay, now I know that the board has asked for kind of a financial tutorial. So I thought, since I haven't done that for the board yet, I would just give some definitions of what internal controls actually are. And they're basically a system and a set of policies and procedures that you put in place in your financial division to accomplish the three items that are listed up there: to safeguard the assets, to make sure that all the business that's conducted by the district is authorized business, and just to make sure that we're reporting things in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. And then I went ahead and that's for short is called GAAP. So when you hear us say GAAP, that's the standards that we have to follow in order to receive the clean opinion that we just recently received for our last audit. And there's a hierarchy of standards that we follow, and the one that is the primary one comes from the Government Accounting Standards Board. And the little pictures up in the top is actually what they look like, and I have them on the shelf now so that we can refer to them. But they issue these statements quite frequently, actually. They're up to, they're in the 60-somethings now, and they have a board of people that are somewhat experts in the field that try to make sure that we all report consistently between agencies and that we're giving the kind of information that the users of the financial statements need. They also issue little bulletins and statements, and so those we have to keep up with. We also sometimes get guidelines from the American Institute of CPAs. We also rely greatly on the Government Finance Officers Association. A lot of times they'll take the stuff that's very technical and put it in easier to understand language, so we refer to their reference material quite often. And then as far as our grant work, there's a series of circulars that's put out by the Office of Management and Budget. You'll hear people talk about OMB, like the grant audits, it's under A133. We do indirect costs, it's A87. So they got a whole series of those. So all of those collectively together that we follow is referred to as GAAP. So, and that's where we're trying to get to with those accrual financial statements. So I'm starting this off with what we have completed. You, the Finance Committee, and the board designated you as the Audit Committee. So that was an item that I think one of the first ones that we completed. They also asked us to not net revenue in with expenses. And so an example where that was done primarily was in strike team deployments. So we do keep track of it because it does have an impact on our labor costs if we are deploying folks and then we get the money back. But when we present it on the financial statements, we are showing them separate. And then they also indicated that we needed to expend the Elk Grove and West Vineyard and Antelope facilities revenue that was on hand for quite some time, which was recognized as being done when we transferred that into our capital facilities fund, and those two funds are now closed. So that item is taken care of.
Okay.
The cash handling procedures, I have to say, as the Chief Financial Officer, this is the area that is of most concern to me, and I'll just share with you that we have 3 different areas where we take in money. Some of it happens at our headquarters, the finance division, as people paying various things do come, and my finance staff works on that. In addition, we have fire prevention, and they have a counter where they collect money from developers or for performing fire inspections and that kind of thing. And then the third area where we receive money is through our third-party administrator for the EMS work, so Wittman. And so those are the 3 areas we take the deposits in cash, check, and credit card. And one of the basic tenets to have good controls over cash is segregation of duties. We have separated some of the duties to strengthen our control so that you don't have one person handling the cash from beginning to end. Little check and balance stuff going on. We are making sure diligently that people put any cash and checks prior to making deposits in a safe. And apparently the auditors had observed that wasn't the case previously, so we are being very diligent about that, as we should be. And as we transport things to the treasury, which is at the county downtown, we are documenting who's taking the deposit, because in the past that hadn't been done. And the last one's a biggie too, is that we are reconciling the deposits back to the county treasury system so that we see, it's just like balancing your checkbook. You got to do it. So, and certainly money is something that would be the easiest to have misappropriated. So you want to have your controls very strong over that. And I will say there are still some room for improvement. And we've had a couple of meetings with fire prevention, and I think we're all headed in the right direction. So I'm feeling real good about that. And we do have the new chief coming in that's going to be helping with that as well. So we look forward to collaborating on that and to continue to tighten up all of the cash handling. Okay, so talking about the ambulance billing service, there was an issue that their reports weren't being reviewed regularly, and reconciliations of the reports back to our financial systems were not being done. So I can tell you that it's being done monthly, very diligently. As we get in the deposits, we are recording them into our financial system, and then we're taking all of those by the end of the month and making sure that it's reflected in our what's at the treasury. There's a mechanism where Wittman directly deposits that money with the County of Sacramento. So our staff really doesn't even touch that money, but we are still responsible for reviewing what's going on and making sure that everything's in order. So that's been tightened up. So we are having the regular reconciliations of our cash balances between Eden and the county treasury reports, which would include all of those areas that I talked about earlier. And then another area where they wanted some kind of independent review was with payroll. So for now, until we have a controller, I've been reviewing the monthly payroll register. So they wanted somebody that doesn't actually issue the checks to be looking at what the payroll people were doing by reviewing their reports. So that is now being done monthly. That was started towards the first of this year.
Okay.
Okay, so those were the completed items. These are the items where we've made significant progress. As you recall, putting a controller in place and having a higher level of staff, we did comment back that we have done that with bringing me on board, bringing Ken on board, but we are now recruiting for the controller. The application period is now closed. We had 59 applicants, of which we determined 23 were qualified, and we have interviews set up for next Tuesday for the top 6 candidates. So that's moving ahead nicely. So hopefully by May, we will have somebody filling that position, and so we can keep this pace up that we've been doing and see if we can take care of some more of these items that are outstanding. The next area that the auditors talked about where we've made significant progress is the capital fire facility fee study. So as we collect those development fees, we have to have our documentation in place supporting the fees that we're charging the developers. And that was done, but it's been done a while ago. And so what we've done so far is we issued a request for proposal. We had interested parties come in and meet with us and discuss how we do things here at Metro. And subsequent to that, we received 4 proposals. And as of today, we selected the firm NBS to do the work for us. And they will be doing not only the development fees, but they will also be developing for us or calculating for us our indirect cost rate so that when we are turning in our expenses for grants where we are eligible to put in for indirect costs, we will have the figures to be able to do that. And they will be able to pass audit because we will have followed all of the requirements of the OMB circulars. And we'll also be able to use it as we update our fees in fire protection. So it's something that really needed to be addressed. And so we're moving forward on that. And we've also, because we found it to be more cost effective, are having them administer the slough house tax. So they'll actually be billing it out, putting their phone number on it. They have a whole division that handles that kind of thing. And so if one of our customers has a question about what is showing up on their property tax bill, they will call there and they'll be able to explain it to them. They'll also be calculating everything that we turn into the county prior to the billing. So that'll be very helpful to us. And we just think that'll be more cost effective overall. Okay. And then procedure documentation. We do a lot of things, so it's a lot of work to document written procedures. But every single person on my staff has made a first draft of their procedures. So they need to go through a review process, and certainly as we fill the new controller position, there may be some changes that that person, he or she, might want to make. So we're leaving them as a draft. We'll be working on finalizing those and then carrying on in the future, keeping them up to date. So anyway, so I was actually kind of impressed myself when I put this together, how much we've done. So, and I didn't do it by myself, and I have a couple of my staff here, so I just want to say thank you guys and to all the finance people. And then I just put for the 17 items, I just put it in a little pie chart to show you that we have completed 4. We have 10 in progress, and we have 3 that I have been holding for the controller. So significant progress since December and February.
It sounds like a lot of the areas that you're working on are going to benefit us in the future. If there's a change of personnel or we hire additional people, you're putting those mechanisms in place, the procedures in place, so somebody comes in, doesn't have to guess at what we're doing here. Yeah. So kudos.
Absolutely. And
kudos.
When I was an auditor many years ago, that was the first thing you asked for when you showed up was where are your written procedures, because you want to see if first of all, if they have them, and second of all, if they're following them. So, we had strike 1 and 2 right there on our audits. So now we will have them in place, and they will be able to use them, and we will be able to use them for succession planning, as you mentioned, and for any other reason. We definitely in the future, it would benefit us to do some cross-training. So it'll be helpful with that as well.
Just to add a management's perspective from the fire chief's office, Chief Wells and I and Chief Aaron probably remember, and Larry Davis, it wasn't too long ago, about a year and a half ago probably, that we were told that these 17 findings as they were doing the audits and all that would probably take somewhere in the neighborhood of several years to be fixed. And so the amount of work that we have, 4 that are complete and 10 that are in process, and where we're going to be in 6 months to a year from now, it is important for myself and even for the board, I think, and the Finance Committee to realize that there is a huge amount of accomplishment that's going on in the finance division that we don't necessarily see on a day-by-day basis that we would pay attention to. But where it is going to leave the district, as Director Monk pointed out, is going to be in a lot better spot than it was in the past, and definitely going to lead to that proper succession planning and ability to transfer information and to keep an accurate record of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going. So I want to thank the Rhonda and her staff for a great job in this, and I can tell you as the fire chief or the CEO, whatever you want to call it, yeah, I sleep a lot better at night knowing that these procedures and processes are being put in place and bringing us up to the 21st century.
Chief, I just want to thank you for all your support too.
All right.
And thank you, Rhonda, and the whole group over there for all your hard work. It does show in the paperwork that gets it up to the board. You're doing an awful lot of work, and it's in the right direction. We appreciate it. Okay, next item on the list is legal bills. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to pay the.
We'll let you go.
I'll second ratification.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Monk.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item is agenda items for the next meeting.
I don't have any at this time, Chair.
Director? Okay. No items for the next meeting thus far. Any items that surface, if you would get them to the board clerk, we'll make sure we get them in. We have a next meeting date. It was May 10th. We're going to cancel that due to other board activities scheduled for that day. So following one will be June 14th at 5 p.m. Anything else coming before the board? Okay, nothing else coming before the board. We will adjourn at 5:37. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.